let's come to the big the big neighbor, China. We've seen trade with China grow exponentially. This year seems to be the highest that India has ever traded or imported in terms of imports. Chinese imports are concerned. It's quite staggering that India's imports from China continue to grow, and yet we have such how would you say it? We have a very poor relationship with China. I mean, I went to the border. In fact, my entire team, we visited the border a couple of times in the last 1 year. And you can actually, there's palpable tension at the border. One mistake can ignite a fire. I mean, that's the kind of feeling I got. How do you see that in diplomatic terms?
China is a very complex game, and China is a very complex neighbor to have for us. We've had one major war with them in 1962, and we're going through a current crisis, right? What happened in the Galwan Valley in 2020 was a crisis where China tried to change that status quo on the border and change an understanding of several decades that let's have border peace and tranquility without prejudice to our positions on where the border should lie. And let's go on to other aspects of the relationship. Let's do trade. And it's not just India that accepted this position with China, that it is good for your country's prosperity. It is the entire world. Because China became the sweatshop of the world. China became the country that, produced economic value for the rest of the world. But everyone is now realizing the flaw in that reasoning, in that policy, because China is now demonstrating that in its rise, in trying to compete with the United States to become the number one power in the world, it is going to be an unruly and belligerent rise.
And we see that with most of its neighbors, right? Even in the Southeast
absolutely
Asian region.
So it's Southeast Asian neighbors, Japan, and that is one of the drivers of the Quad. The US, Japan, Australia, and India all feel that way. But for us, it's real and present, the danger, because it's on our borders. So we have a dragon-sized threat on our border. And yet we have to be practical, pragmatic about managing that threat, because we have a relationship of $130 billion of trade. We have a certain dependence on China for critical supply chains, which includes pharmaceuticals, textiles, electronics.
It's a catch-22 kind of a relationship, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And, we are being pragmatic about it. So even now the debate is that we should open our economy to Chinese investments. So I think now the feeling in Indian industry, and which is accepted by Indian government, is that in the medium term, we will be dependent for certain critical supply chains, and let's accept it and let Chinese investment come into India. But at the same time, let us reduce our dependence on critical strategic supply chains. Let's try and do that on our own. But you cannot move to a situation of 100% independence. You can't be Atmanirbhar overnight, right? It'll take you a while to get.
And we are in an interconnected world, so absolutely, we can't do everything on our.
And India has been a beneficiary of this globalization, but now it has to be smart globalization. You have to ensure that you're not completely dependent on China in critical supply chains. It shouldn't be that they can turn off the tap and have a huge degree of leverage on you. So it has to be a pragmatic and balanced policy. You have to create alternative supply chains. And China itself is now going through a churn, because, some people are saying, for instance, that the China story is over. The China growth story is over. And the baton has been passed to India for demonstrating that growth. So you are getting the investments that were going from the West into China. A good chunk of it is possibly coming to India. So I think it's a complex situation, and what Indian diplomacy will try to do is manage it. And I would guess that in the next few months, there would be a meeting at the high political level, perhaps between Modi and Xi, where we make some kind of tactical adjustment with China, if not a strategic reset in how to go forward.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this clip. As you know, we are taking a deep dive into some complex issues and decoding them for you. So don't forget to check out more content on our channel. And also, we'd love to hear back from you with your comments and your suggestions. So let's explore together.